I still remember the way she said it, not loud, not dramatic, just a weak voice like she was trying not to break. Save me 3 times a day. At first I thought I heard it wrong. Who talks like that? Who asks for help like it's a schedule? The rancher didn't laugh. He didn't walk away either. He just stood there holding the fence rail, eyes fixed on her like he was watching a storm form in the distance. You could tell he was the kind of man who didn't trust trouble, the kind who keeps his life simple on purpose. But she didn't give him a simple problem. She gave him a promise, and promises are heavy. She looked like she had been running for days, dust on her shoes, hands shaking, lips dry, and the strangest part was her timing. She didn't say, "Help me," she said 3 times. Like if he missed even one, something bad would happen. Like someone somewhere was counting. He asked the normal questions. Who are you? Where are you from? Is someone chasing you? But she didn't answer the way people answer when they want to be saved. She glanced past him over the empty land, then back to his face, and her eyes filled with panic. "Morning," she whispered. "Afternoon, night, please just do that." And right there I felt it. This wasn't about kindness. This was strategy. This was survival. And the rancher, he didn't even know he was standing on the edge of a deal that could swallow his whole life. He wasn't the kind of man you'd expect to get pulled into a mystery. That's what made it feel even more dangerous. The rancher's life was built on things that stayed the same. The sun came up, the cattle moved, the fences held, the water troughs filled, and if something broke, you fixed it with your hands, not with your feelings. People in town knew him as steady. Not friendly in a loud way, just steady. He nodded when you nodded. He paid on time. He didn't borrow trouble, and he didn't lend it either. If there was ever a problem at the feed store, he'd be the guy standing quietly to the side, waiting for it to end. Not judging, not joining, just waiting. Even his place looked like him. Wide land, clean lines, nothing fancy. No show-off trucks, no big signs, just a worn gate, a long dirt drive, and a house that looked like it had been sitting there long before anyone thought to call the area valuable. Out there, you could hear the wind move through dry grass like it was whispering secrets to itself. And most days, that was all the sound he wanted. That morning started like any other. He woke before light because his body didn't know any other way. Coffee, boots, the same jacket hanging on the same hook. He stepped outside and paused like he always did, scanning the horizon. Not because he was scared, more like it was a habit. Ranchers look, it's what they do. They look for broken fences, sick animals, strange tracks, a coyote too close, clouds that don't belong. He checked the herd first, counted heads, watched how they moved. A limp tells you a story. A cow separated from the group tells you another. He talked to them sometimes, not like a person talks, but like a man talks when he's alone and doesn't need a reply. Then he went over the line fence, the one that ran near the tree break, where the land shifted into a rough strip of brush. That's where he noticed the small things. A gate that didn't swing right. Fresh scrape marks on the post. A piece of cloth snagged on a thorn. He didn't jump to wild thoughts. He just frowned because something had been there. And then he saw footprints, shallow but clear in the soft dirt. Not boots like his. Smaller, quick. Like someone had been moving fast and trying not to be seen. He followed them without really deciding to. One step, then another, then he was pushing aside branches and looking into a space where the brush opened up. That's when he found her. At first his brain refused to place her there. A woman didn't fit in that corner of his land. Not alone. Not like that. She looked like she'd fallen out of another story and landed in his. Her hair was messy, stuck to her face like she'd been sweating and crying. Her clothes were plain but torn in places, like she'd caught them on fences. She wasn't bleeding, but she had that look people get when fear has been living in them for too long. And she didn't stand up like someone trying to act brave. She stayed low, almost like she expected a shot to come from somewhere. Her eyes kept moving, checking behind him, to the sides, to the opening of the field, like danger could step out any second. That's when she said it. "Save me 3 times a day." He didn't respond right away because what do you even say to that? He blinked once, slow. His face tightened. In his mind, save meant pulling a calf from mud. It meant giving a neighbor a ride when their truck died. It meant calling the vet at midnight. Not whatever this was. He finally asked her name. She hesitated, like names were risky. Like once she said it, it could be used against her. "It doesn't matter," she said, and it came out softer than she probably meant. Then her eyes snapped past his shoulder again and her voice dropped. "Please. Morning, afternoon, night. Just do it." His instincts pulled him two ways at once. One part said this was none of his business. The other part said you don't find a terrified person on your land and ignore it. He thought about calling the sheriff. That would be normal. That would be clean. But before he could move, she flinched. Not from him, from something far away. A sound, maybe, or maybe nothing at all. And he watched her hands clench, then unclench like she was fighting to stay calm. "Someone's after you?" he asked. She gave a tiny nod, but it wasn't a full answer. She looked at him like she was trying to read his soul, like she needed to know what kind of man he was in 10 seconds because her life might depend on it. He told her to come to the house. Water first. Shade. He said it in the same voice he used with animals. Firm. Not unkind, just practical. She didn't move. Instead, she reached into her pocket and pulled out something small, not a weapon. Not money. A cheap phone, screen cracked, battery almost dead. She didn't hand it to him, but she held it up as if that object explained everything. "If I don't check in," she said, "they'll come." "Who's they?" he asked. Her lips pressed together. Her eyes glistened, but she didn't cry. That's the kind of fear that's past tears. "Just people," she whispered. "People who don't like loose ends." Now the rancher really went still. Because he knew what that meant, in the way regular folks know it. It didn't matter if you were in Texas or Montana or somewhere with no name on the map. People who talk about loose ends are never talking about laundry. He told her again, slower, "We call the sheriff." Her head shook so fast it almost looked painful. "No, please." She grabbed her own wrist, like holding herself together. They'll make it look like something else. You don't understand. I just need someone to do the saves, 3 times a day, that's all." "Why me?" he asked, and his voice finally showed a hint of alarm. "Why here?" she swallowed. "Because you're alone," she said. "Because nobody comes out here. Because you look like someone who keeps his word." That last part landed harder than the rest. It wasn't a compliment. It was a hook. She had looked at him and chosen the shape of his character as her tool. He stared at her, jaw tight. He didn't like being read like that, but he couldn't deny it either. In a place like his, your word was the only thing you owned that couldn't burn down or run away. He asked what the save was supposed to be. She shifted closer, but still kept distance, like a wild animal unsure if the hand offered food or a cage. "When I say it," she explained, "you have to answer. You have to show up, even if it's quick, even if it's just for a minute. I need a witness. I need proof I'm not alone." "A witness for what?" he asked. Her eyes flicked to the phone again. "So they can't say I vanished," she said. "So if something happens, it doesn't disappear with me." That sounded almost smart. Too smart for someone shaking this hard. And it made the rancher uneasy in a new way. Because fear can make people desperate, but planning like this. Planning means she'd been in this situation before. He could have ended it there. He could have backed away, called it crazy, told her to leave his land. But then she looked at him again, and there was a new edge to her voice. "If you don't," she whispered, "they'll use someone else, and they'll keep doing it." He didn't like the way that sentence sat in the air. It felt like a warning and a guilt trip at the same time. Like she was placing a weight in his hands and stepping back, forcing him to either drop it or carry it. He took a long breath through his nose. His eyes moved from her face to the open field, then to the tree line, then down the dirt track that led back to his house. Nothing moved. No cars. No people. Just wind and sun and silence. But silence can hide a lot. He reached into his pocket and pulled out his own phone. He had signal in some spots, not others. He could call. He should call. But he paused, watching her watch him, like she was waiting to see what kind of man he truly was. "All right," he said finally, and even the word sounded like it hurt him. "Tell me what you want." Her shoulders sagged a little, like her body had been holding itself up on pure panic. "Morning," she said, almost like a prayer. "Afternoon, night. When I send the message, you answer, you come. You say you're there, you make it real, you save me." He didn't say yes out loud in a big way. He didn't shake on it. He just nodded once. And the moment he did, I swear the air changed. Not because anything visible happened, but because a decision is a door, and once you step through, it closes behind you. He didn't invite her into the house right away. Not because he didn't feel sorry for her, but because he was careful. Careful was how he stayed alive out there. You didn't bring a storm inside just because it looked tired. So he offered the shed first, an old tack room that still had a working lock and a small window. It wasn't comfortable, but it was hidden from the road and shaded by the trees. He handed her a bottle of water and watched her drink like she'd been rationing every swallow for days. She tried to keep it neat, like manners could protect her, but her hands shook so much the water spilled down her chin. He asked again for a name. She gave him one, but it sounded like something she'd picked up off the ground. "Mara," she said, quick, plain, no last name. Then she looked away as if saying more would bring danger closer. He showed her where the light switch was. He pointed to a small cot in the corner and a blanket folded on it. He also pointed to the lock and said, "You lock this from the inside." He tried to make it sound normal, but nothing about this was normal. Then he did something that surprised me. He set rules, real ones. Like he was trying to turn fear into a simple job. "No leaving the property," he said. "Not without telling me." She nodded fast. "No phones near the road." Another nod. "And if anyone comes here," he added, "you don't run toward them, you run away from them. You understand?" This time her nod slowed, like those words were not new, like she'd learned them the hard way. He asked her what she meant by 3 times a day. He wanted the details, exact times, exact method. He was trying to see if this was possible, like it was a fence repair. She leaned against the wall and took a shaky breath. "It has to be spaced," she said. "Not all at once, not close together." "Why?" she swallowed. "Because they check," she whispered. "They track gaps, they notice patterns." He stared at her. "Who checks?" She didn't answer. Instead, she pulled out the cracked phone again like it was a contract. The screen lit up for a second, then dimmed as if even the phone was tired. "I send a message," she said. "Just one word, you reply, then you come to me. You say my name out loud. You make sure I'm seen." He frowned. "Seen by who? It's just us out here." Her eyes lifted, and for the first time she looked almost angry, not at him, at the situation. "Not always," she said. "They have ways." That was when I felt the rancher's doubt grow teeth. Because "they have ways" can mean a lot of things. Cameras, people, a planted tracker, a person watching from far away with binoculars. The rancher didn't say any of that, but you could see him thinking it. He stepped outside the tack room and looked around, slow and careful, like he expected to spot someone hidden in the trees. Of course, he saw nothing. But seeing nothing doesn't calm you when you suspect someone is good at hiding. He came back in. "What do you want me to do, exactly?" he asked again, more firm this time. "I need the steps." She took a deep breath like she was about to read instructions she had memorized. "First," she said, "you answer my text, always, even if you're busy. Second, you come. You don't send anyone else. Third, you say, 'Mara, I'm here,' loud enough. Fourth," she hesitated, "you look at me, like really look. Then you ask me something simple. The date, the weather, anything, so it's real." He blinked. "So it's real," she nodded. "So it's real." He didn't like it, I could tell. He didn't like being told how to save someone like he was taking orders. But he also didn't like the fear behind it. Because fear like that usually has a reason. He asked what would happen if he missed one. Her mouth tightened. "Then I disappear," she said. He let out a short breath, almost a laugh, but it wasn't funny. "You can't just disappear." She looked straight at him. "People disappear," she said. "All the time. Sometimes they call it running away. Sometimes they call it an accident. Sometimes no one calls it anything at all." That hit him hard, even if he didn't show it. Because out in the country you hear stories. A drifter found in a ditch. A runaway never seen again. A woman who left town and nobody asks where she went. He asked where she came from. She shook her head. Too far, she said. Too late. He asked what she did. She hesitated longer. I saw something, she whispered. What did you see? He asked. Her eyes flicked to the door and she lowered her voice. I saw names, she said. I saw money. I saw who was paying who. The rancher's jaw tightened. That sounded like trouble with sharp edges. That sounded like the kind of thing that doesn't let a person walk away. He leaned closer, not in her space, but enough to show he was serious. If you're mixed up in crime, he said, the sheriff is the answer. She flinched at the word sheriff like it was poison. No, she said, almost a hiss. No badges. He stepped back, eyes narrowed. Why? She didn't answer. But her silence answered anyway. Then the phone in her hand buzzed. Not a normal long ring, just a short vibration like a reminder. She jumped so hard her shoulder hit the wall. The rancher's hand went to his belt without thinking. He didn't carry a badge, but he carried what ranchers carry: tools, a knife, sometimes a gun for coyotes, sometimes for worse. She looked down and unlocked the screen. He watched her face change as she read. Her lips parted. It's time, she whispered. He checked his watch. It wasn't even noon yet, which told me this wasn't just 3 neat moments. It was a moving target, a test. What does it say? He asked. She swallowed. Just now, she said. He pulled out his phone. There was no message from her yet. Nothing. That made his stomach drop a little, because if her phone was buzzing and his wasn't, then the buzz wasn't from him. Who is texting you? He asked, and his voice sharpened. She looked at him, eyes wide. I don't know, she said, but she said it too fast. He took a step closer. Mara, who is texting you? Her hands trembled over the screen. It's not a person, she whispered. It's a system. A system, he repeated, confused and angry now. She nodded, eyes wet. They said it. It pings at times to check if I'm alive, to check if I'm alone. The rancher stared at her like she'd just spoken another language. How does it check? She stared down at the cracked phone and didn't answer. Then she typed something with shaking thumbs, one word, and his phone chimed in his pocket. He pulled it out and saw it. Save, that was it. No hello, no please. Just a command. He looked from the screen to her face. So when you send that, he said slowly, I answer. Yes, she whispered, and then I come. Yes. And if I don't, her voice broke. Then they come. The rancher's throat moved like he was swallowing something bitter. He typed back, trying to keep it simple. Here. Then he looked at her and forced the words out, loud enough to fill the small room. Mara, I'm here. She closed her eyes for 1 second, like the sound of her own name anchored her to the earth. Then she opened them again, and for a heartbeat she looked almost relieved. But relief didn't last, because the rancher's phone buzzed again immediately after with a new message. Not from Mara, not even from a number he recognized. It was a photo, grainy, zoomed in, taken from far away. And in the photo, clear as day, was his gate at the end of the dirt road. Someone was watching the ranch. Right then, I knew the deal wasn't just 3 times a day. It was a leash, and it was already tightening. The rancher stared at that photo until his eyes hurt. His gate looked normal, same faded wood, same latch, same dust on the road, but the angle was wrong, too high, too far. Like it was taken from a ridge or from inside a parked car with a long lens. The worst part was the timing. The picture arrived right after he said, Mara, I'm here. Like someone out there was waiting for that moment. He didn't show fear the way most people do. He didn't gasp. He didn't shout. His face just went still. And when a calm man goes still, it usually means something inside him has started to move fast. He stepped to the small window and looked out across the brush line. Nothing, just heat shimmer and grass bending in the wind. He opened the door and listened. No engine, no voices, no crunch of tires. But the silence didn't feel empty anymore. It felt crowded. Mara stood behind him, small and tense. You see, she whispered. He didn't answer her. He walked out, slow and careful, and circled the tack room like he was checking for snakes. He looked for tracks, fresh boot prints, cigarette butts, anything. He found nothing. That made it worse, because it meant whoever did this knew how to leave no trace. He went back inside and shut the door. "How long has this been happening?" he asked, voice low. Mara shook her head. "I don't know, not long, but long enough." "That's not an answer," he said. Her eyes flicked up, sharp with panic. "I can't keep track," she said. "I sleep for minutes, I wake up scared, and then the phone buzzes again." He looked at the cracked screen like it was a living thing, then he looked at her. "Why you?" he asked. She swallowed hard. "Because I know something," she whispered. "And because I didn't stay quiet." He wanted to ask what she knew, but he didn't. Not yet. Some part of him understood that the more he knew, the harder it would be to step back later. And he still believed deep down that stepping back was possible. His phone buzzed again. Save. It was too soon, too close to the last one, like someone was pushing, like they were testing how fast he would jump. He typed back right away because he didn't want to see what happened if he waited. "Here." Then he walked over, looked her in the eyes, and said it again. "Mara, I'm here." She nodded, breathing tight. She whispered, "Ask me." He hated that part. It felt fake. It felt like acting, but he did it. "What day is it?" he asked. "Thursday," she answered, too fast, like she'd practiced. "And the weather?" "Hot," she said. "Dry." The rancher's jaw clenched. Nothing about this felt like rescue. It felt like a routine forced on him, a ritual, and rituals are how people get controlled. He stepped outside and moved toward the house, signaling her to stay put. "Lock the door," he told her. "Don't open it, even for me, not until I knock twice." She nodded and turned the lock with shaking hands. He walked to his porch, grabbed his binoculars from the hook by the door, and scanned the edge of his land. He checked the ridge. He checked the far fence line. He checked the spot where the dirt road curved out of sight. For a moment he thought he saw something. A flash of metal, a shape between trees, but when he focused it was gone. Then the next part hit him, not the fear, the math. 3 times a day, every day. No matter what, he had cattle to feed, repairs to do, water pumps to check. But now his day had a new boss, a buzzing phone and a woman in a locked room, and the cost started right away. Around noon his neighbor Wade rolled up in a dusty truck. Wade was the kind of neighbor who kept things friendly but counted everything. He didn't gossip like a teenager, but he watched like an old hawk. He parked near the porch and tipped his hat. "You seen my heifer?" Wade asked. "Red tag." "She's been missing since yesterday." The rancher's throat tightened. He had seen her earlier. She'd been near the creek, close to the brush line, close to where Mara had appeared. "Not today," the rancher lied. "It came out smooth. Too smooth." And he hated himself for it. Wade nodded, but his eyes didn't nod. They slid over the rancher's shoulder, toward the trees, toward the area behind the house. "You got company?" Wade asked. The rancher forced a small shrug. "No." Wade stared a little longer. Then he smiled, but it wasn't a real smile. "Funny," he said. "I thought I heard a voice earlier, girl voice." The rancher's pulse jumped, but his face didn't. "Wind carries odd sounds," he said. Wade's smile stayed. "Sure does," he replied. Then he leaned forward like he was sharing a joke. "Just be careful, folks been talking. Couple miles over, someone's been driven slow at night. Like they're looking for a place." The rancher's fingers curled against his thigh. "What kind of folks?" he asked. Wade lifted one shoulder. "Hard to say. New truck, dark windows, no plates I could see." The rancher nodded as if it was nothing. "Thanks." Wade looked at him for another second, then started his engine. "If you see that heifer, you call me," he said. "Any time." The rancher watched him drive off, dust trailing behind. He felt the first crack in his normal life. One small lie, one neighbor noticing, one seed planted. His phone buzzed. Save, afternoon already. He cursed it under his breath, walked fast toward the tack room, and knocked twice. "Mara, I'm here," he said through the door. He waited. No movement. His chest tightened. He knocked again, harder, still nothing. His mind ran wild in half a second. She ran. She got taken. She's hurt. This is a setup. He grabbed the handle and tried it. Locked. "Mara," he said, louder now. "Open the door." A shuffling sound. Then the lock clicked. The door opened a crack. Her face appeared, pale and sweaty. "What were you doing?" he asked, too sharp. "I thought it wasn't you," she whispered. He stared at her. Why? She held up the phone, trembling. I got a message, she said. It said, he's not alone. The rancher felt his stomach drop. From who? Mara shook her head, eyes wide. I don't know. He stepped inside and scanned the tiny room like it might have hidden corners. It didn't. Still, he felt watched. He forced himself to keep steady. He typed a reply. Here. Then he looked at her as required and said it again. Mara, I'm here. Her lips moved. Ask me. He hated it more this time because now it wasn't just a ritual, it was proof for someone else. What's the day? He asked. Thursday, she answered. And the weather? Hot, dry. Then the rancher's phone buzzed again. A new message, same unknown number, 2 words. Good boy. His face went hard. His hand shook once, just once, then he clenched it into a fist. He didn't even notice he was breathing fast until he heard it in his own ears. Mara leaned closer, whispering, Don't get mad. He looked at her like he couldn't believe what she just said. Don't get mad, he repeated. His voice stayed low, but it cut. Someone is on my land, someone is calling me that, and I'm supposed to stay calm. Mara's eyes filled with tears. If you don't play along, she whispered, they punish you first. And then they punish me. The rancher turned away, jaw tight, and stared at the wall like he was trying to see through it. He wanted his old day back. He wanted his quiet back. He wanted to step outside and find only wind and cattle and time. But now there was a third thing living on his ranch, a watcher, and the watcher wasn't asking. It was training him. That night he didn't eat much. He tried to because habit is comfort, but every bite tasted like dust. He kept hearing those 2 words in his head. Good boy, like he was an animal, like he'd been put on a leash without even feeling the collar. He checked every lock twice. He walked the yard with a flashlight even though the moon was bright. He looked for tire tracks near the road. He looked for footprints near the fence. He looked for anything that would let him point at the danger and say, there it is. But the land gave him nothing. Just open space and shadows that could hide anything if you stared long enough. Mara stayed in the tack room. He could hear her breathing through the thin wall when he got close. Short breaths, controlled. Like she was trying not to panic because panic makes noise. He needed answers, real ones, not hints, not riddles. So when he brought her a plate of food and a clean cup of water, he didn't start with kindness. He started with pressure. Tell me what you're involved in, he said. Now, Mara's hands clenched around the cup. I told you, she whispered. I saw something. That's not enough, he said. Someone is watching my gate. Someone is texting me. Someone thinks they can train me, so you tell me what this is. She stared at the floor for a long moment. Then she looked up and said, if I say too much, you'll send me away. He didn't answer, because she was right. A part of him wanted to throw this whole thing back into the dark and pretend it never touched him. Mara took a breath. There's a ranch, she began, not like yours, a show ranch. Big money, big guests, big parties. She swallowed. They do business there, not cattle business, other business. The rancher's eyes narrowed. Drugs. Sometimes, she said. Money, most of all money, it moves through places like that. Quiet, clean. Everybody smiles. He stood still, listening like every word was a nail. I worked there, she continued. Not as a boss, not important, just someone who cleaned. Someone who hears things because people forget you're there. Her fingers tightened. One night I heard names, big names, I heard numbers, I saw a folder left open in an office. I took pictures. He felt his stomach twist. You stole from them. I didn't steal money, she snapped, then caught herself. I stole proof. He wanted to say that proof gets people killed, but he could see she already knew. They found out, he asked. Mara nodded. Not right away, but they started testing me. Small things, questions, watching my face. Then my phone started buzzing. These messages, the schedule, her voice shook. They didn't grab me in a parking lot. They didn't chase me with sirens. They just closed the air around me. The rancher stared at her. So the 3 times a day, that's them. She nodded again. They want me alive, she whispered. For now. Because when I'm alive, they can control where I go. They can control what I do. They can control who I talk to. He paced once back and forth, like the small room was too tight for his thoughts. That makes no sense, he said. If they want you gone, they just do it. That's the point, she said softly. They don't want a body, not yet. They want my proof. They want my phone. They want to know if I sent anything out. She looked at him, eyes shining. And they want to make an example out of me first. The rancher stopped pacing. Then why come to me? Mara hesitated. Because I tried other places, she admitted. A motel, a friend, even a church. Her voice dropped. Every time the phone buzzed, every time the message came, every time someone showed up close by like they were following the signal, he felt cold. So you brought that signal here. Mara flinched at his tone. I didn't want to, she whispered. But I didn't have anywhere left. Silence hung between them like a wire. Then his phone buzzed. Save, night. The third one, the one that always felt like a knife. He didn't even look at the screen this time. He already knew what it would say. He replied automatically, here. Then he forced his voice steady and said the line again. Mara, I'm here. She nodded, and the relief on her face was so real it scared him. Because it meant she truly believed this ritual was the only thing keeping her alive. Ask me, she whispered. He exhaled. What day is it? Thursday. And the weather? Hot. Dry. He turned away as soon as he said it, like he couldn't stand the feeling of being used as evidence. He walked out of the tack room, shut the door, and leaned against the wall outside with his eyes closed. That's when the next text came, not from Mara, from the unknown number. Bring her out. His eyes snapped open. His heart slammed once hard. He typed back without thinking. No. A few seconds passed. Then, you don't say no. The rancher's jaw clenched so tight it hurt. He stared out into the dark, scanning the tree line. The wind moved through the branches, making soft sounds that could hide footsteps. Somewhere an owl called. The world pretended it was normal. He typed, she's safe here. The reply came fast. Safe is our word. He felt rage rise, hot and bright. He wanted to smash the phone against the wall. He wanted to grab his rifle and walk into the night until he found whoever was doing this. But he didn't, because that's what they wanted. A mistake. A burst of anger they could punish. He went back inside the tack room. Mara saw his face and her eyes widened. What is it? She whispered. They want you outside, he said. Mara's whole body tensed. No, she breathed. No, no, no. He held the phone up. She read it and her lips went pale. They're trying to scare you, she whispered. They're scaring me just fine, he said. Mara grabbed her own wrist again, hard, like she was holding on to herself. If you take me outside, they win, she said. But if you refuse, they punish you. The rancher stared at her. What does that mean? Mara swallowed. They'll hit your life, she whispered. Not mine, yours. They'll break something you can't fix with a hammer. The rancher felt a chill crawl up his spine. Like what? Mara didn't answer with words. She just looked past him, toward his house, toward his land, toward everything he owned. His phone buzzed again. A photo. This time it wasn't the gate. It was inside his kitchen. His own kitchen. His table, his coffee mug near the sink. The image was clean and close, like whoever took it was standing in the room. The rancher's blood went cold. He turned toward his house without thinking. The porch light was on. The door looked closed. But the picture didn't lie. Someone had been inside. Mara saw his face collapse into something raw. What? She whispered. He held the phone out to her. She looked. Her hand flew to her mouth. They're in your home, she breathed. The rancher felt something new in his chest. Not just fear. Violation. Rage. A deep, quiet kind of rage that doesn't burn out fast. He didn't shout. He didn't curse. He just said very softly, they crossed the wrong line. Then another message came. One sentence. Come out or your ranch burns. The rancher looked at Mara. Mara looked back at him. And right then, the 3 times a day wasn't a strange promise anymore. It was a countdown. For a second, neither of them moved. The air felt thick, like you could push it with your hands. The rancher kept staring at the message as if reading it again would change the words. But it didn't. Come out or your ranch burns. He slipped the phone into his pocket slow, like quick movement might trigger something. Then he walked to the tack room window and peered out through the glass. The yard sat quiet. The porch light made a soft yellow pool on the dirt. Beyond it, the land went black. Mara's voice shook. "They're bluffing," she whispered, but she didn't sound like she believed it. The rancher didn't answer. He went to his tools shelf and opened a small metal box, the one he kept tucked behind feed bags. He took out a flashlight, extra batteries, and a worn old handheld radio. The radio wasn't fancy, but it worked across the property when cell service didn't. He handed it to Mara. "If I say your name on this," he told her, "you answer." Her eyes widened. "Like the texts." "Like the texts," he said. "But this one is ours." Mara clutched the radio like it was a lifeline. "What are you doing?" she asked. He checked the lock again, then slid a heavy wooden bar into place. "I'm making sure you stay alive while I keep my place from turning into ash." Mara's lips parted. "Don't go," she whispered. He looked at her then, really looked, not because the ritual demanded it, because he needed to understand what he was risking. She wasn't a ghost story anymore. She was a real person who had dragged a real nightmare onto his land. "I'm not leaving you," he said quietly. "I'm leaving this room." He stepped outside and pulled the door closed behind him, keeping his body turned so he could still watch the window. Then he started moving, slow and careful, staying out of the porch light. He kept to shadow like he'd done 1,000 times while checking on coyotes near the coop. His phone buzzed again. Last chance. He didn't reply, not yet. He refused to jump on command. Instead, he walked a wide arc around the house. Out by the side wall, he crouched and touched the dirt. He felt it between his fingers, dry, loose. No fresh tire cuts close by, but that didn't mean anything. A truck could be parked far out. A person could be watching from the ridge. He moved toward the barn next. As he came closer, he caught it. The smell, gasoline, not strong but sharp enough to make his neck prickle. He froze and scanned the ground. Then he saw it. A thin, wet line near the barn wall, glistening faintly in the moonlight. It ran toward a pile of old hay bales. His jaw tightened so hard it looked painful, so it wasn't a bluff. He traced the line with the flashlight, keeping the beam low and narrow. The gasoline trail wasn't long, but it didn't need to be. One match, one spark. The whole place could go up like paper. A ranch is not just land, it's your living. Your animals, your past, your future. Everything you built with your back and your hands. He backed away from the hay bales and forced himself to breathe slow. Fast breaths lead to fast choices. Fast choices get you killed. He pulled out his phone and took a picture of the gasoline line. Then another. Then one more, wider, showing the barn and the bales. Proof. If he lived long enough to use it. His finger hovered over the emergency number. Then he heard something soft. Not a voice. A click, metal against metal, like a lighter wheel spinning. Like someone's thumb working just out of sight. He turned off the flashlight instantly and dropped into a crouch, heart slamming. He listened so hard it almost felt like his ears hurt. The wind moved. Grass shifted. Then the click came again, closer. He didn't see them, but he could feel them. The way you feel eyes on your skin. He raised his radio to his mouth, barely whispering. "Mara," her voice came back fast, tight. "I'm here." "Lock in," he murmured. "No matter what you hear." "What's happening?" she whispered. He didn't answer, because answering would mean talking. And talking would mean giving away where he was. His phone buzzed again, lighting up his pocket like a beacon. He ignored it and slid the phone out, screen faced on in his palm. He hated how that glow could betray him. Then a shadow moved near the barn's far corner, just a shift. A person stepping between piles of equipment. The rancher's blood turned cold. He could shout. He could run. He could fire a warning shot. But warning shots don't warn the right people. He stayed low and moved backward inch by inch, keeping the barn between him and the shadow. He needed distance. He needed cover. He needed a plan. Another sound came, unmistakable now. A match striking. A tiny scrape, then a soft flare like a breath of fire. The rancher lunged forward without thinking, not toward the person, toward the gasoline line. He grabbed a bucket near the barn door and dumped it, praying there was water. It was half full, not water. Old, muddy rain runoff mixed with feed dust. He threw it anyway over the shiny trail, smearing the gasoline into the dirt, breaking the clean line. Then he grabbed another bucket. This one was empty. His heart hammered. He looked toward the trough by the corral, too far. He looked toward the hose spigot near the side wall, closer but exposed. And then he saw it. A pale flame flickering near the hay. The fire hadn't caught big yet, just licking at dry strands like a hungry tongue. He sprinted, boots pounding, and stomped hard, pressing dirt over it. The smell of burning hay puffed up, bitter and sharp. He stamped again and again, grinding the flame into the ground until it went out. For a moment the world went quiet in a way that made his skin crawl. Then he heard slow clapping. Not loud, not dramatic. Just steady mocking claps coming from somewhere in the dark. A voice followed, calm, close enough to carry. "You're good at this," the voice said. "That's why we picked you." The rancher spun, flashlight up like it mattered. The beam caught nothing but fence and weeds. The voice had come from darkness and returned to it. "Who are you?" the rancher barked. A soft laugh. "Doesn't matter. What matters is you do what you're told." The rancher's hand tightened around the radio. "You've been in my house," he said, voice shaking now with anger he couldn't hide. "You trespassed. You threatened my animals." The voice didn't sound impressed. "Your animals are replaceable." That line hit like a punch. Because it wasn't just cruel. It was true in the way cruel people talk, like everything is a number, like life is an item on a list. The rancher took a step forward into the darkness, then stopped himself. He wouldn't chase a voice. Only a fool runs toward an unseen gun. "Bring her out," the voice said again, casual as talking about weather, "or we keep teaching you." The rancher's phone buzzed one more time, and this time he looked. A short video. He tapped it before he could stop himself. The screen showed Mara inside the tack room. The angle was high, like from the top corner near the ceiling. The video was live. She stood frozen, clutching the radio to her chest, eyes darting around like a trapped animal. The rancher's blood went ice cold. They didn't just watch the gate. They didn't just walk into his kitchen. They had a camera inside the room where she was hiding. Mara's lips moved on the screen, whispering his name, but the audio didn't come through. She looked terrified and alone. The rancher raised the radio to his mouth, voice low but urgent. "Mara, don't move. Stay away from the corners. Stay center." Her voice came back, shaking. "They're here," she whispered. "I can feel it." The rancher looked out into the black field, then back at the live video. His mind raced, trying to match one truth to another. If they had a camera in there, they had time. They had access. They had been on his property long before she arrived, which meant this wasn't just about Mara. This was about him, too. His phone buzzed again, a final message popping up like a judge's sentence. "Now you understand the price."